That's Periscope. We're going to look. Yeah, we live. Deuces. Y'all just keep on vibing off the music right now.
Yeah, we're going to go Periscope live on here.
Red, black, and green party. Was that just a one-liner you all? Do you really believe that? I believe it's definitely possible, but the question is, are we willing to do that? Political gangbanging, like Crips and Blood, like Folk and People Nation. The new renegades, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. Like at the end of the day, it's choosing of the two lesser of evils. Depends on whose opinion you ask, what opinion you get. What? You said power to the people, you just answered my question. Well, I do disagree with that. I love my brother's perspective. But I do find ourselves choosing the two of lesser evils, if you would. Yeah, there's got to be. That's just too sour. Is there a screen you can put on it? I know y'all is doing Facebook. I know y'all ain't always this tight. Is it, y'all? Really? I know because I've seen some people in situations where it wasn't like that. Maybe it's the phone can't do it sideways. And YouTube has you don't do theirs that way, right?
I think Periscope actually can do the sideways view.
And I wonder how it comes up.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, we working trying to make sure we got some angles of perspective where you can see us. I know y'all be like, man, what kind of room y'all be sitting in? Y'all be like all cramped up. Oh, no, that's better. Providing you all that we got it sideways. We got a horizontal, but the question is, how are you seeing it? So we'll find out here in a minute. So if it comes out kind of crazy, y'all all are black and let us know.
Check us out up here.
Okay, yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Then if I lean, yeah.
No, we good. Okay. Let's get it like that.
All right, everybody.
Peace, love, and life, fam. Pearly Gates, sitting here with my man, Papa Rob, brother with Amon Rashidi. Today we're going to be talking about political gangbanging. We got Democrats and Republicans, Bloods and Crips, and Black and White. We're going to get right down into the discussion. Right now, we are in the midst of an election cycle, meaning that we're looking to see who's going to become the next president of the United States. And what I'm actually noticing, and what I've noticed since I was a child, is the degree of fervor and energy that we as black people put into voting in the political process in general. And, you know, the question is, in my mind, where has this gotten us to this point? And I know that there are a lot of people, proponents of it. There are a lot of advocates for voting. You know, people say, hey, well, our ancestors fought to have the right to vote, and we should exercise that right. But I'm just asking a genuine and sincere question. Where has voting gotten us? Shout out to my boy, Dayon Franklin, Ken Roney, thank you guys for joining us.
Roney, long time, brother.
Hey, and also congratulations to Brother Roney on his 34th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And to my boy Zadok Ben Israel on his 16th wedding anniversary.
What's Zadok?
Zadok.
The God MC? 16 years of what? He ain't 16 years old, all himself. About 16 years married, man. Stop playing.
So, Papa Rob, what's your perspective on what you're seeing in terms of the political climate and just your overall perspective on voting and
Well,
how we fit into
I
that
think we,
picture.
you know, we're living in a society where we have to make sure. Let me hit this. I don't know why it dimmed, but I think it's still recording. I mean, when you're given rights in the United, when we came over, let's just start fundamentally. 1555 on a slave ship called Jesus. I mean, the politics begins right there because you got to have people that's going to insure the ships. You got to have people who are involved in what they're doing to human beings. And then we arrive here with 3/5 of a human. Now you hear you're 3/5 of a human and you go on a sojourn. And God, I'm talking about a sojourn of during the 400 years. You get freedom in 1864 by some and in 1865 or 1866 for others. And then once you get free, you got to deal with Jim Crow laws. You got to deal with all these things. And it takes us to 1965 to get the right to vote. And once we get the right to vote, we still are being handled, if you would. So anytime where people have been freed they've been freed less years than they have been enslaved, it's going to take some time. If you go back historically and look at any people who've gone through what we've gone through, something that's similar to that, it takes a time for that society or that group of people to bond together. Has it benefited us? In some aspects it has. But if you depend upon it exclusively, you're going to say that it was a failure. If you look and you see that President Barack Obama, you think that was the ultimate goal, that we got a black man as president. Well, we've had black pharaohs, we've had black kings and queens long before America existed. So that to me is inconsequential because that's a job. But the goal of election is to be able to create policies that help improve our lives. Our lives can't be improving that much when every 28 hours, we losing our life to civil service people that we pay. That's a problem with that. When we have an overrepresentation in the prison system, that's a problem with that. When we still have housing discrimination, there's a problem. And we've been voting for this. So I guess when you ask the question, has it failed or has it worked? Let's put it this way: it's still work in progress.
Okay. Okay. So to all of you guys who are out there on Facebook, if you want to actually participate in the conversation, the number is 605-562-3140. That's 605-562-3140. I'll give you an opportunity to write it down. My brother Khalil, he's going to post it on the screen. That's 605-562-3140, and then it's 389-254#. And we'll see you in the console. We'll give you some instructions from there. *6 if you actually want to comment, and then we'll get that dialogue rolling. We jumped right into the voting thing, and I got a few issues here that I wanted to address, but since we are already rolling with the voting, we're going to keep it rolling with the voting. I may come off as a pessimist when it comes to voting, and to be honest with you, I don't believe in the voting thing. I mean, when I say I don't believe in it, I believe that we should exercise our right, and that is our option if we choose. However, I've lost faith in the whole voting system, the whole political process when it comes to that, because I know that it boils down to money. So now this is what we're hearing. We're hearing, okay, well, you know, we hear that there is such thing as a corporatocracy. In other words, now we're not dealing with a democracy, we're dealing with a corporatocracy. And that's essentially saying that these large corporations control the politics and the policies of this nation. So, and to a large extent, that is very true. So when an office, in fact, this is one of the things that Donald Trump is using against Hillary Clinton. He's saying that she is beholden to her corporate donors. Now, if you look at who these corporate donors are, and I'm talking about the biggest of the biggest companies, I'm talking about the biggest or the wealthiest of the wealthiest private donors. So now we're saying, well, we need to start identifying our own politicians, you know, as a group, and we need to start putting money behind our politicians. Okay, well, there's one thing wrong with that picture, and it's called Willie Lynch syndrome. You know, and Willie Lynch, you know, a lot of people say that this was, you know, something that was a product of the CIA that came out in the 60s, and, you know, this whole letter of 1712 is a hoax. But let me tell you what's not a hoax. Whether it is something that was done in the 1700s or whether it was in the 1960s, what they did is they analyzed that document, or they analyzed our behavior, and they walked back, or they were able to project forward certain things about us as a people, our nature. And pretty much laid it out. This is social engineering. So in that social engineering component that I'm talking about, we have distrust and we have self-hate. So the likelihood of us, and we have disunity. And these are the major things that Willie Lynch focused on. So if you look at the fact that we have self-hate, distrust, and we have no unity, then good luck with finding a candidate that we're all going to agree on and we're all going to trust that he's going to do the right things with our dollars. I'm going to pull back a little bit and let Papa and I jump in here.
Well, you know, I think the issue of us being disunified is, it just depends on who you ask. If you went to the Nation of Islam, they would say they feel disunified. Probably you went to RBG, they probably wouldn't feel like they're disunified. If you went to SCLC, they wouldn't feel like they're disunified. If you went to NAACP, they wouldn't feel like they're disunified. So it all depends on how we see it. I've always believed that 90% of the group follow, only 2% lead. I think we have to stop reinforcing what we perceive to be our deficits and then just hold on to the things that make us strong. The 2% is what's going to have to fight, not the 5%, but the 2%.
I agree, just as the 1% actually controls the world. However, on the question of unity, I would still say that they are, and I agree with the fact that we don't need to focus on our deficits.
Right.
At the same time, we need to call a spade. And although all of those groups may not consider themselves disunited, those are still fragmented groups when we look at the whole picture.
Well, so, what you do see, if somebody come up to me and I see a guy and a lady getting into it, and I try to intervene to stop it, and while protecting that lady, I end up killing that man. I'm not a murderer. I'm defending the integrity of that lady. So you can come and look and be perceive me as one thing. I think what we see is trauma. What we call disunity, what we call other, that's trauma. That's the people who've been under attack and under siege. And when you under attack and you under siege, it creates another condition. And the question and the thing you have to see is how disunified other people are. The people that hold us in this position of peril that we allow to, they're more disunified than we are. And if we stop thinking that they're monotheistic and they believe all the one way, then I think things are going to get better. It's getting better now. Well, but they control the platforms by which you hear the news. Well, because I didn't even know we were doing as well as we were doing in reparations until I was in London. I would have thought it was a mute discussion until I realized, man, and not only are they going before the United Nations, this thing is about to happen in several countries. But based on news in America, I'd have thought it was mute and it was long forgotten.
Right, so we got two elements in play. We got divide and conquer,
right?
You know, which is a strategy of war.
Right.
And then we have the propaganda arm, which is a vital weapon of war. So we're talking about political gangbanging today on Brother to Brother with Aman Rashidi. I am Pearly Gates. This is Aman Rashidi to my left. We got some callers on the line. If any of you guys choose to chime in, press *6. That will put you into our caller queue. Let me pull my screen up because you may already be in the caller queue.
And while you're looking, I want to say this as well. Back in 1989, I wrote a paper, and the paper was called United States of America Incorporated. And I didn't know much about politics then, but I understand the dynamics by default now. But my issue was that as a young man, I could see right away that the corporations that sponsored, that supported the campaign were the ones that the politicians were beholden to. They're going to be responsive. If somebody put $10 million in their pocket to do something, and I just put down one vote, stop playing. This is capitalism. Capitalism operates off fear, ignorance, and opportunity. So somewhere along the line, you got to put some principles in your politics. It sounds like an oxymoron, but we got to work for it.
Well, I think it is an oxymoron because when you look at, okay, I was told we got to learn how to play the game. Okay.
As soon as you learn how to play, they change the game. As long as you don't own the game. I've heard that before. I hate that.
Yeah, you got to learn how to play the game.
You got to create your own league.
Good luck with playing a game that I invented. Because every time I see that you're about to win, then since I own the game, since I created the game, then I can change the rules.
Yep.
You know, and so and then also I'll go to the statistic that Dr. Anderson quoted or he published, which is on the eve of the Civil War.
Session started.
On the eve of the Civil War, blacks controlled 0.5% of the wealth of this nation. Eve of the Civil War. In the year 2000, fast forward 140 years, blacks controlled 0.5% half of 1% of the wealth of this nation. Okay, so if politics is about money, and we know that it is about money, if we are in any way intelligent about the political system, then how in the hell are we going to compete with them financially when they control the finances and invented capitalism?
Well, there have been many other countries. If you all think back, there have been many other revolutions if you start to look back, especially in the islands where people who had less money, less power, sometimes less numbers overthrew. Shaka Zulu fought the British for over 100 years. So if you start to look, it takes a period of time. We are impatient. And we really want some things to happen. But it was
unity.
But it was unity. It's still unity today. We still have unity today. It's no different. The landscape is about the same, you all. We don't have any disunity than we had at first. It's a perception. And what happens is that the elite black people who have money that's been accepted by the propaganda machine misrepresent us sometimes. And they tell us you can do it too. But that's not the case. That's why you're the only one up there. So here's the other thing that you got to take into consideration. You're fighting the FBI, the CIA, the Port Authority, and every other state and federal government agency that work every day against your demise with government programs like COINTELPRO to slow your process. So you wonder why you divided. No, you're being beat up. So even though you're fighting back, this is what it looks like. In a wartime situation, when people attack you, it's not going to look pretty.
Check this out.
But I'm glad we did get to where we are right now. Though we got a ways to go.
I ran across an article by a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Soros, and I want to read a paragraph of the article. Okay. He said, in order to become a naturalized citizen of the United States, until recently you had to answer this question. What is the most important right granted to U.S. citizens? The correct answer, according to the United States government, was the right to vote. But that right has always been on shaky ground. Just as the Constitution once countenanced slavery, it also allowed voting to be restricted to property holding white men. The 13th Amendment expunged the stain of slavery from our basic law, but the Constitution has never fulfilled the democratic promise we associate with it. Put simply, sorry for that interruption. Put simply, and this is surprising to many people, there is no constitutional guarantee of the right to vote. Qualifications to vote in House and Senate elections are decided by each state, and the Supreme Court affirmed in Bush versus Gore. I quote, the individual citizen has no federal constitutional right to vote for electors for the President of the United States. So, all of the proponents of voting and the democratic process, good luck with getting these people to change the rules of the game. Our power is in formulating an agenda and collectively uniting behind that agenda. Anything that we want to get done. Just like right now in Dallas, in Highland, what's the old park? It's
Hamilton Park?
Hamilton Park. In Hamilton Park, the oldest black community in Dallas. Right now they're trying to get something built. Something inside the park is actually falling down, and they want to get this thing rebuilt. And we want to go through the political system to get this built and go and talk. Listen, man, we need to take about 500 to 1,000 people down to City Hall, unite, understand what the goal is, and demand that they come over there and fix it. It's just the bottom line. Demand you come over and fix it. We're going to show you where you got money to do this, you got money to do that, you got money to do this. Look, y'all come and fix this. Or we gonna continue to put pressure. We gonna continue to nag you, harass you, and ain't no balance got to be cash for that to happen. It is the power of unity. I'm off the voting bandwagon. Will I vote in the local elections? I may vote in the local elections because I vote to show unity to the people, to my people who believe in the process. I voted for Barack Obama. Guess why? Not because I believed, but I voted so nobody would jump in my face at a cocktail party in case he lost and say, see, you the reason why he lost. We could have did this, or he could have did this, and he could. No, he ain't done nothing. 8 years. Show me what he's done.
Well, the one thing, and I have never been I started out as a big fan, and before Zaki passed away, he was so happy to see that a black man had gotten into office. He was extremely happy. And after his passing, I think he would have been very disappointed. He probably would have been more understanding than I am because, he had 15 or 16 or 20 years on me, 15 years of understanding, if you would. But, dealing with the whole issue of election, you got to understand it affects your schools. It affects whether you can be on the jury. So you will be blocked out of a lot of processing many times if you're not in the process some kind of way. I know I benefited greatly from a lot of the brothers that were brought on as judges and some of the people that was elected as judges that helped my business move forward. I didn't understand the connection at the time, but I do understand the necessity in some capacity. But is it the exclusive thing? No, I don't think it's exclusive. I think we need them all because if you're not going to vote, you're going to have your own schools, you're going to have your own hospitals. There's certain things you have to do to circumvent that.
And that's what I'm saying we need to be getting to, because what is the benefit of the schools? Look at what the hell is it. Man, I saw a video this morning in a school that's got 13 million views. So that means that most of you who are watching have probably seen this video where a young girl, it looks like she was junior high school age, she was attacked by about 7 children. She was attacked by 7 girls, and they beat this child mercilessly.
For what?
We fight.
Well,
we fight.
but I thought you said the police did.
Wait a minute, no. The students in the school. So what I'm saying is, if this is the type of education that we are getting, if this is what we are breeding in our schools, and then at one point in time, during the whole melee, a man stepped in, an older man, he was probably about 55, 60 years old. Man, do you realize that as he was standing there, one of the other young ladies stepped up, kicked this girl in the face. He didn't. Now, it would have been hard for me not to slap the hell out of her. It would have been real hard.
How old is
these 13-year-olds, these is 12 and 13-year-olds. She kicked this child in the face after they had beaten her to where she was helpless on the ground. She held her own, to her credit, she held her own for a long time. Then this girl kicked her in the face, and then the video played, and she kicked her about 4 or 5 more times in his presence. So I can't embrace it.
But that goes more to some other of our social dilemmas than as much as that being a school. Because I would ask first, was that a public school, was it a private school, was it a charter school, what was the circumstances behind it? And sometimes the person who got there behind, we don't know what they did to ensue it, doesn't mean that they deserved it. There are a lot of variables that come in with a common fight. Those are things that we need to be addressing ourselves. I addressed that last night at the church because the vast majority of these children that we're talking about, I guarantee you, came from Christian homes. They're not a Muslim or terrorist threat, but we sit around and we watch these kind of things occur. So instead of you waiting for the politicians to come to your church, then you can generate those resources. As a matter of fact, the politicians use the church to circumvent the money from agencies like ours so the church can control it. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff we got to watch with this.
Now y'all see why this is popular. Y'all see why he's the elder. See, I'm just fired up and I'm going in because and I'm expressing and he's right. But I'm expressing a lot of the sentiment and frustration that the vast majority of us feel. This is what we see, and a lot of us can't articulate. So before the lid blows off this thing, you better be glad that we got, brothers in the community like this who are well-rounded, well-educated, and refined in certain capacities where they can deal with these dilemmas that happen in our community. Look, we got my brother Omawale on the line, and I hope you guys can hear him. And if you cannot hear him clearly, somebody please send us a message. Hey, I want to shout out to all of our people. I've been having my head down a little bit. Anthony Williams, LaShawna King, Daphne Fullmiter. Peace to all y'all. Hey, thank you for joining us today. It's Brother to Brother with Amon Rashidi. The call-in number is 605-562-3140. I don't know if Miss Fullmiter is in a position, but I know that she is an educator. I know she is a teacher, and maybe she can call in if she has the time and articulate some of the things and the challenges and what she sees in the public school system. Omawale, can you hear us? Can you hear us, brother?
when the music was on, I was wondering why that was on.
It looked like it. Okay.
They was trying to get off a while ago, y'all.
Hey, bro, can you hear us? Okay, you're gonna have to call back in, man. I'm sorry about that. Give us a shout back. Papa Rock.
Yeah, well, you know, at the end of the day, y'all, we talked about the issue of political gangbanging. We have to take a real look at that. And I mentioned earlier that the FBI, the CIA, the ATF, and all these acronym named groups, you know, were really at war at us at one time. You're talking about the whole stench of the whole American government because we resisted, because we didn't have the right to vote, because we were being lynched, because, you know, we were being marginalized. We were fighting back for that right. In the same way we were called names and mistreated now under the guise of Black Lives Matter. Back then we were calling it Black Power. So we shifted from Black Power to Black Lives Matter. But guess what? It still don't matter to them. So who's going to have to matter to is mostly is us. See, I think the campaign should look inward. I think we should start campaigning in our own neighborhoods to take our neighborhoods back. A full-scale campaign, having block parties, and then doing our own voters registration drive to run our own independent candidate, having our own political platforms, a national agenda for youth, national agenda for African American people, and a national agenda for us abroad. Those are things that Garvey had really kind of already lined out. So we have blueprints for this. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I know some of us are doing that. And I don't want to undermine the integrity of all you groups that are already working, but we don't know it. See, in Montgomery, Alabama, when the sister Rosa Parks was sitting on the bus, until we saw it in Arkansas, until we saw it in Gooseneck, Tennessee or something like that, we didn't realize that was happening to everybody. And then everybody realized it, then we came together. We became so strong that we shut down Montgomery, Alabama's bus system. Carpooling, as you know it today, came as a result of our efforts during the Montgomery boycott. So a lot of exercises that we use now to save money in reference to carpooling and the HOV lane and all these concepts came out of what we did in Montgomery, Alabama. But guess what? When they realized they were about to go bankrupt, they called the so-called black leaders back to the table. Politics now, back to the table and say, hey, look, we need to do something about this and da-da-da. What did we do? We went back on the bus because at the time, 75% of all the money that was coming from the earned revenue was coming from black people. We came back and revitalized that bus system, and we should have created our own. That was just an example, I'm saying, you all.
Yes, indeed.
Of how taking our own political power. Because it took the churches, the church buses, it took vans and cars and families working together. It's going to take the same effort now. But you got to identify the campaign and the movement. We did it at 10-10-15. We did it in 1995.
You know what? Omawale, are you here?
I heard that music again, like we're...
Can you hear us?
I'm going to test something out. I'm going to try it on here. See, can I pull them up there?
Okay. Well, this is my observation. And I'm going to do this if I can take a break within the next couple of days. There is a movement to transfer, for us to transfer money into a black bank. I'm not sure of the name of the bank. If anybody knows the name of this bank, it's been all over Facebook. And it started, I won't say it started with, but Killer Mike, the Atlanta-based rapper, has been a strong advocate. The same gentleman who was actually pushing, it's Unity Bank. Thank you, Daphne. He was a strong advocate for us to begin to move our money and at least move $100 out of wherever we are members, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you name it, and put it into this black bank. Okay, so I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna check it out. And to be honest with you, I really don't need to check it out. And I know it sounds crazy, I really don't need to check it out. If you rob me of my little $100, then more power to you. I don't have to check it out. As long as it's just like you're taking the same type of risk when you go online and you order something. You know, when you go online and order a pair of shoes or you order a book, if somebody is out to scheme you out of that, then you just lost that money. So I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna put my money in this bank just so that I can say that I participated. You know, we'll see what the bank does. If the bank evolves into a mega institution, for us, and they start doing the things that we should be doing with our money, then hey, more power to them. But what I saw, okay, we heard you on the line, so we coming right to you after I finish this point. But what I saw in the thread that I was reading was people immediately going in and challenging. Okay, well, what do you guys do for us? You know, what do you do about this, and how do you, you know,
you give us the same line of questioning that the white people who've oppressed you have used. We use their template and their blueprint because we think their ice is colder. We're gonna fight against them, but we're gonna beg them to represent us, because if we can't get their stamp of approval, something is wrong. That's what happens when someone has owned you and you have not let go of that ownership. We still carry their names. We still carry that behavior. It's as spiritual and cultural as it is political. And even when you start talking about y'all banks, black folks, why would you have a problem with that when these banks almost bankrupt the world?
Man,
I'm talking about these white people that you believe in almost bankrupt the world. And then the poor people bail you out with our tax-based dollars, and you have the nerve to come back to our community and not want to give us loans? Hell yeah, I'll test out a bank other than you all.
Exactly. I mean, they gave these people the third degree about what you're doing, and I just would have.
And we do it. We're some of the main people who do it.
No, we're the ones who are doing it. That's what I'm saying. It was black
That's
people.
from a fractured people who are in pain, y'all. We gotta let go of that.
It was black people challenging the other black people while, you know, and we haven't all. And I'm not saying that they're not within their right to ask,
and you know,
where's their money going. I mean, it just got so intense, and there was it was just.
I don't think that we're doing the same thing with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and all the rest of them. They come in smug and feeling comfortable based off what I've seen in commercial and based off the historical banking system that this is great. But these are the people who've been bankrupt the country. These are the people who through the S&L crisis almost bankrupt Texas. So what is you talking about? Right. You know, and all the time you talking about, well, black folks can't do business. We're not corrupting the country with our businesses. We're not stealing. Who being patriotic? Who Donald Trump is taking people's jobs across? You are. You are the ones who take it. You gonna build a wall in Mexico. Who gonna run your corporations and who gonna build them?
Wait. Now we gonna come back to that wall. Because I got a theory about the wall.
Yeah.
Omawala, you on the line?
Yeah, I am. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
We're great, man. Talk to us. You're coming through very faint. Go ahead. That's a little bit better. I don't know if the people out there can hear you, man. So I'm gonna try to echo some of your sentiments.
Okay, well,
We got you.
I got to say is I get out there that you guys keep on going, which y'all doing a great job. But in all honesty, I personally have lost faith in the political system. However, I will still vote just to show unity with my people who feel that voting is the right way. And to me, if we can get together and vote, if we can get together and organize and do other things, and every little bit counts.
Yeah.
To me, voting is like appealing to the conscience of somebody who don't have a conscience. In other words, we're asking those in power to make changes that they really don't want to make.
Okay, so he said that he feels like voting is like appealing to the conscience of a people who don't have a conscience. So you're asking people to make change who really don't want to make change. Go ahead and continue, brother.
Yeah, and what I'll continue to say is that, if we can unify and, exercise our vote, that may help a little bit. But something else that helps is, protesting. It helps a little bit. And I put on the same line and vote, because if you're sitting in every day at the police station, organized peaceful march, or at City Hall, and that's on the news, that right there kind of does what it did in the 60s. It kind of put, aggravation that white communities and white supremacy has created in their face. And, when you put it in their face, we're there every day protesting, or we're there every
Okay.
If we do that, that will go a long way to solving some of the problems in our community.
Great. Okay, brother, thank you for your call. I don't think that they could hear you out there, but he was essentially saying that, listen, if we can organize to vote, then we would probably have more, we'd be more effective organizing and protesting and sitting in at some of these places that are denying us justice. And also that if we would begin to patronize black businesses, begin to circulate that black dollar, and if we would do as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has suggested, that we go in with 10,000 fearless black men, and we begin to clean up and patrol our communities. You know, if the ones of us who are not afraid to go out there and deal with the gangbangers and the drug dealers and the pushers and all that. You know, and those are my brothers, by the way. You know, so I'm not, those are our brothers. You know, we realize that survival is survival. You know what I mean? That is essential. You know, that is self-preservation. That is the first law of nature. And speaking of that, I want to make one comment before you jump in, Papa Rod. And I heard Dr. Sebi, rest in peace, brother, rest in power. He said something the other day, and I was like, whoa, man, this is, he said, now I'm not going to say that I agree totally with the statement, but I do agree with the remnant of it. He said, white people are not bigots. They're not practicing bigotry. They never have. They practice self-preservation, the first law of nature. And I'm like, whoa, man, okay. So if we could just get us to practice first self-preservation, if we could just get us to practice self-preservation, then y'all, we would be all right.
And get us to start, a part of us practicing self-preservation is not being preoccupied with white people, not being preoccupied with the devil. They're some of the greatest teams that fought never took the team under consideration. They just took what their goal was, and they looked at the other people or the other team just as an obstacle in the way. So, and I think that's what we have to begin to do. When, an emoji bow to the spirit of Dr. Sebi and what that brother represents. And I saw a piece on Queen Afua, and they did a beautiful presentation. I just want to say that in reference to Dr. Sebi. But it goes back to the point of reference is the unified effort is defining the we first. And that means organizations. Minister Farrakhan said that, we keep referencing him because I look at him, and that group is one of the largest organized bodies that existed for the longest periods of time, that still have a major impact on our present and our future. And all I'm saying is, in that particular instance, use them as an example. I mean, the examples of the Nation of Islam and the FOI going and policing the community. See, we have examples already of pockets of unity and success, so we need to identify those. And stop being judgmental when we see those because they're not Christian or they don't fit the dynamics of what you think. Everything that our Anglos do don't fit the dynamics, but you do it anyway. I had a guy at church last night say, well, I don't want to fool with them because they're Muslim. I asked him, is your banker a Muslim? No, he's Jewish. Well, he's not Christian, but you still go. Stop playing this game. We don't hold ourselves accountable to the same lines of accountability that we hold others, because we see white people better than us because they condition us through a process. We send our children to their schools. We watch the images, and images shape your reality, and we feel like they're better. And we have to change that. When they did the study with the black dolls, as they did against Brown against the Board of Education back in the day, guess what? Today, more children chose the white doll than the black doll, even again, on who was the prettiest, who was the smartest, who you want to be most like. So if your children see the future through their eyes, then you don't have a future. That's why you have to have independent schools. That's why you have to have independent operations of thinking. China shut its borders down for 10 years, let nobody in. No programming from anybody else until they conditioned their people to the ideals of what was best for China. We got to be able to do the same thing or take small pockets and do that. And I'm saying, it is this, what you're talking about political game banging, when I think back, I look back and saw that in 1992 that President Clinton said that the greatest threat to national security in America was black gangs. He didn't say black gangs, but he said gangs in America. You knew he wasn't talking about skinheads. So put that in perspective. And then those numbers started to boom. We started being called, what they call is not terrorists, what do they call those, the people that Unseen talk about all the time? Super predator.
Oh yeah.
All this began to emerge. And before you knew it, our own communities were calling for mandatory sentences on crack cocaine.
Yeah, you know that I believe it was a Harvard scientist who basically created some junk science that actually substantiated the whole idea of the super predator. So this was just something that
well, they got a new study from Harvard now called the hood disease. Harvard has done a study saying that we have hood disease, meaning a lack to a function, a issue of social, what they call a social gravity. That means that when other people who are around us, who happen to be non-black, we draw them down based off something called social gravity. And this complex predicament, a scenario that we find ourselves in is called hood disease.
Oh.
Kind of like
Drapetomania.
So you see in history repeat itself.
Now, drapetomania is when
you ran away.
When a slave
and then
decided, I can't deal with this no more, and I'm here to run away. And they said he's ill. He has drapetomania. No, he's just tired of.
Because what other place would a nigga love to be enslaved by white people?
Boy, so.
But and remember this, that's the only time that we have full employment. Even though we laugh and we have a levity to it, then you understand the seriousness of it. That the only time that we ever have full employment from a policy standpoint of view, if you listen to politicians, when they all agreed to have a slave. Republicans and Democrats all agreed alike for 400 years where we should be and how we should be. You had Republicans and Democrats all the way up to 1965. And if your democracy was so darn great, then why did it take to 1965 for us to vote? Women, ask yourself the same question. Why did you have to have a women's suffrage movement? This has been controlled by powerful white Anglo men.
Period.
And you just got to pull the wool off our eyes and say, hey. And then for white people, it's hard because it's like you fighting your brother, your sister, your dad, and your cousin. What do you think we feel like in opposition? We all gonna be a little uncomfortable. But if we're gonna fight, we gotta fight together.
So in order for our vote to be effective,
if we're voting, that is.
Exactly. In order for our vote to be effective, the institution has to have integrity. And that is what we see a lack of. Institutional integrity. I'm gonna read just one more short paragraph of what this gentleman was saying, and he is a fellow at some institute. I can't call the name right now. It said there's been a steady descent into chaos and confusion that threatens the integrity of our institutions at home and our credibility in promoting democratic governance abroad. Because we push democracy just like we push Christianity all over the globe. He said people wait in hours. He said people wait hours in line to cast a ballot. Voting hours and locations change at the last minute. There's uncertainty about who can vote, whether voters need to show identification, and what counts as identification. Armies of lawyers fight over these rules before election, and when the results are close, they fight again over which votes should and shouldn't be counted. He reports that recently that cases challenging election rules have more than doubled in the decade since Bush versus Gore. So this thing is not getting better. So to add to this, at one time we had the poll tax that we had to pay. At one time we had the literacy test that we had to pass. Yeah. These are all rules that are being changed by the people who own and control the game. The reason why only white men who owned land could vote in the first place is because that is how they designed it. So there are laws that govern energy, that work, time, energy. Where do you want to put your work, time, and energy? And for those people who talk about our forefathers and what they fought to establish and all this, that listen, our forefathers fought to establish the fact that we were not inferior and that we were deserving of equal and fair treatment in this country. That's what they were fighting for. We are not inferior and we deserve equal and fair treatment in this country. That's already been established, okay? But it has not been achieved. We have not achieved this equal and fair treatment, and I think that you're foolish if you think that we ever will. Not under this system that was designed for something totally opposite.
Well, you're not gonna get it as long as you ask for it. You get things you want when you take it. What happened to us, as I said before, wasn't slavery. It was war, and you're still being opposed by war now. And you have to fight for the things that you want. When a country decides they want something and they fight against you, they don't care whether it's right or wrong. They just fight you. I want this, and I'm willing to die and not live, not even let my lineage go on if I can't live in this manner. And after a while, it comes down to that. This country at one time had a civil war, and well over, I think, close to 1 million plus people died. Some said 500,000, but I'm gonna look at the numbers again. I think it was close to well over 1 million people. So you're talking about brother fighting against brother. So if we can have that level of war and during that period of time, believe me, and the war has really not stopped. Anytime you got as many people as you got incarcerated in America, these are concentration camps. We got more people incarcerated than we had enslaved at one time.
War.
And if you watch people, and I know my sister was saying, well, she don't believe in post-traumatic stress syndrome, but I'm gonna come back and do a show on that. And most people don't, because most people are insensitive to the things that happen to black people, because after all, we tough, we can get through anything. That's an excuse.
And did she say she didn't believe?
Well, what PS called it, yeah, but anyway, we can come back and talk about that. But I think we need to lay what that really means, because I think people take it the wrong way. And as a counselor, I want to come back and give that some time, and then look at and then go back, reference Dr. Joyce DeGruy, and she really breaks down and how you think that you're healthy and you're okay, but your behavior dictates that something else is really wrong with you. And then we reflect that on each other. You wonder why we don't like each other. When one unhealthy person sees another, we normally attack each other. So you have to understand, it's a lack of balance in a lot of ways. You can't watch yourself be killed on television every day and say that you're normal. Stop that. No human has that capacity to watch your people be killed and still be considered to be normal. But it's powerful to see that we continue to fight on, and we shouldn't stop. But all I'm saying, during this political climate, we have to be mindful. And notice the things that Donald Trump is saying, you all, is creating a climate. Remember we said when you want to develop something, when you're trying to make what I call environmental matrix, first thing you do is you create the climate. Then you redirect their energy. Then you replace their vices. That is happening right now. And we're letting it happen by an idiot.
Yeah, I was reading Daphne's comments. She was like, yeah, it's real, but we don't suffer from it coming up in the hood. You know,
I disagree, because that's where the wartime is. That's where the vast majority of us being killed. That's where we watch our mamas be killed. That's why we watch our dads be shot and killed. We watch ourselves be incarcerated. We watch other children 12 and 13 years old still having sex. That is not normal. High levels of anxiety create post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I'll start talking about some of the behavior patterns that come along with it. Most of the time when a person thinks that they're an alcoholic, they don't think they're an alcoholic. I'm normal, I'm functioning, everything is normal. But in reality, you all look at our behavior. Proof of behavior is in what you do and not in what you say. Your mouth will say anything, but behavior don't lie. We say we don't commit suicide. But let me tell you something. When a 5 Super Crip run into a spot with 49 Kings and start talking smack and he by himself, he's asking for a death wish. You see what I'm saying? He ain't calling it suicide, but guess what it is? Suicide. So I just think we have to look at it. And one of the things I want to say about this is pretty soon PG and I are going to be in a position where we can talk to each other face to face, because I appreciate everybody's commentary, because it makes us rethink, it makes us research, and this goal for this, y'all, is develop for each other. So definitely, I'm thinking everybody. I see Brother Fuller.
Yeah, he said we need to change our culture, upgrade in a way. And I agree. Yeah, and that we're a nation of survival. Yes,
and definitely depression is a form of post. We gotta talk, girl. First of all, I think is she a teacher?
Yes, she is a teacher.
Okay, yeah,
she
great.
Is
she's in kick. She's gonna ask questions. I love it. Give me clarity, baby. That's what she's saying. All right.
So. You know, yeah, we are a resilient people. E-Fool was talking about changing our culture. Okay, right. So we cannot stress how important media is.
Oh, man.
Media is a branch of government. If you guys don't know it, it is the propaganda arm. It is the weapon that they use to put out there to the public. This is what happened. This is how you should feel about certain people, certain attitudes. Mm-hmm. This is what you should dress in. You know, this is all the media. All of these things are forms of media. These images that they continue to bombard us with. The music that is cool. I mean, it's like, listen, man, with this music right now, where you got these young rappers, and I love hip hop, and this ain't on no old man BS. Listen, we got people with retarded behavior. I'm talking about, this is just straight up at face value retarded behavior. And music is one of the main parts parts of our culture. You got people saying, and it's like, okay, so y'all, so you really listening to this?
Right.
You really jamming to this? You telling me, but it's the beat, and the beat is jamming, but the words don't make no sense. All he talking about, get crunk, get stupid. Come on.
Now imagine that, and imagine doing that repeatedly, because that's how you learn, through the process of repetition. So on a constant basis, someone is constantly repeating it to you, but not only they're repeating it to you, but they're repeating the song over and over again within an hour 40 song rotation or an hour and a half. In a consistent basis of that, within 16 to 12 weeks, you change patterns of behavior.
And they putting video to it.
Oh my God! So now that enhances it even more. Now you throw the video in there. Now we really got some issues. So that's why we're saying, whoever controls the minds of your children control the destiny of your race. What you see reflects what you feel reflects what you think. How you think dictates how you act, and how you act will dictate how people will react to you. That reaction defines your status, how people see you, how people perceive you. Whether an officer want to walk up to you and have his gun on you. Most of what you know about us as black people in the world comes from stereotypes and media.
The propaganda, media.
And this lady I was talking to, I guess a couple of years ago, I think I was in Buffalo, and I ran to this white lady in the store, and she was talking about, we can all get along, we all the same. I said, ma'am, no, we're not all the same. We all have different diseases. We have differences, but we don't want to admit that. And she said, well, I don't see color. I said, well, if you don't see color, you can't see my hair, you can't see my eyes, you can't see my nose. Don't miss me with no stereotype. So why do you have to do that? Why do you have to declare that you blind to acknowledge that I'm black? That says something is wrong with other people, not just us. So I just think those are some of the things that we got to be mindful for, and we got to be willing to work toward.
It is the integrity of the system. Once again, we talking about political gangbanging, and I really noticed it in the early '90s. With the campaigns,
right?
With what they call the mudslinging campaigns, and the politicians, man, just got downright and dirty, and there was nothing off limits. There was nothing that a politician could not say to another politician to win a race.
Go after their wife, their children, call their children ugly. I mean, hey man, what does this got to do with politics? What does this got to do with America? Because it's a distraction. Yes. You understand that most of the political platforms, when it's time for the popular culture to make this popular vote for the president of the United States, that's like running for Miss America. The whole world watches that. And we are all distracted, and all the major moves that are being made on the chessboard is being made during this time of politics, because we preoccupied, busy with putting the next bobblehead in office.
Man, I'm so glad that you said the D word, the distraction, because I feel like every 4 years, that is exactly what it is. Once we begin to collectively see that, this is a farce, then in 3.5 years, they come back and they start beating the drum about how, we're going to put this person in office, or we need to get this person out of office. And they start, tearing down and demonizing the previous administration, and start telling us what's on the horizon. And they give us these, 16 to 20 candidates on each side of the line, the red and the blue. And they started saying, this. And it is a total distraction. The only thing we need to really be concerned about is uniting, and we need to be able to move the masses. We need to be able to move the masses into. Shout out to LaShadion Anthony, that young man. I'm very impressed with him. That's Dallas Action.
Okay.
Shout out to Dallas Action. He's the one that I was telling you that I stood up in the meeting to say something, and when he started talking, I went on and took my seat, man, because that brother, young brother, totally represented. He's got a barbershop. He just got his permit to open up his store. I hope I'm saying the right thing.
Yeah.
But that young man, we are actually now this is on not this platform, but on the bigger platform, which is Griot Nation Radio.
Commercial radio platform.
The real one with the
over 1 million listeners.
With over 1 million listeners. We're gonna do a show on young black leaders. Young black leaders, because we see what is happening. Shout out to Next Generation Action Network, Dominique Alexander. This young man is going through some rigors, y'all. I mean, he's going through some rigors, and the city of Dallas They want to make an example out of him because we see
Politics.
we see Next Generation Action Network. We see Dallas Action. We see hashtag I Will Lead. We see Think Before You Thug. We see Gorilla Mainframe. We see the flagship black organization, the one that's been organized nationwide, the Nation of Islam. These people see all these things happening, and they know that when they saw that 1,000 people downtown Dallas, when they saw 1,000 people take to the streets, they slapped the Black Lives Matter tag on it. But to my knowledge, and hopefully we'll be able to get an interview, to my knowledge, that wasn't a Black Lives Matter event. That was organized by some local groups in Dallas, and they see the ability to organize and mobilize, and that is when you actually become a threat. This ballot, you can cast this ballot all day, because guess what? In the election with Gore and Bush, 56,000 ballots were not counted. What you gonna do about that? How you gonna vote and change that? 56,000 ballots were not counted. And guess what? The CEO of Diebold, the company that was responsible for putting manufacturing the voting machines and putting them into localities, and also the software, the guy promised that he was going to deliver to George Bush Jr. The second, or George W. Bush, the electoral vote, and he did that indeed. And guess what? Instead of this, they sued them, they paid the fine, and he put some more machines out there and more software out there.
Politics.
Doing it right now.
Because machines cost money. Politics.
It's money, man. It's money.
All of this is money. But what I want to say is about the groups that you mentioned. I think most of these are organically grown, meaning they organically developed based off necessity of what was occurring, and then people stood up and they wanted to fight. But what they like to do in mass media through the propaganda machine is rubber stamp one group so you can take groups out, the bigger groups out one at a time, and put you under one umbrella, and then use that one group as an example, because if you'll do it to the big group, then you'll see what they'll do to you. If you don't have your warrants paid up, if you ain't got your taxes paid up, if you ain't got your child support paid up, if you got any little dirty little secret, let me let you know, that's what they're gonna come at you first. And to you young brothers, even if I haven't met you before, been through this, done that, and still doing it, let me tell you something, stop believing your own hype. You'll get too damn arrogant and you'll find yourself standing outside by yourself. And then when the news headline go away, you will go away and you will no longer be relevant. So you have to be able to fight for the long fight, something that structurally gives us a position for a purpose, a plan, and a process, and it's got to stabilize us. So I just wanted to throw that in. And the other thing is, politics is the cash cow. The networks make more money than they ever make during this period of time. You know why? Other than Christmas? Because you're constantly repetitiously, all that money you giving the politicians, they paying the networks to be on TV to watch that circle of money. Woo, you don't get none of it back.
That's a big one, man.
And then they run to your churches at the same time, more money. You see what I'm saying? It's money after money after money. And guess what? Even though it's a branch of the government, it's privately owned. It's not public. These are privately owned. When you start talking about GE owns Fox, what are you talking about? How you gonna be objective? Are you gonna say something about GE? No.
I just want any of the proponents of this democratic process, tell me how we gonna deal with the money. Tell me how Lil Bank, which is us, gonna take Big Bank. Just tell me how Lil Bank gonna take Big Bank, and then I'm gonna jump on that bandwagon.
Well, I tell you this, first thing you gotta do, you gotta fight. People don't like that, but so once you get to the attitude where you have that I don't give a damn attitude, it makes other people say, uh-oh, we gotta rethink. Once we begin to forfeit our need to be comfortable, and then what we basically do is just abstain from things that we act like we have to have, now you start hurting people. Martin Luther King said, I'm gonna stop protesting. He said, I'm gonna start redistributing the pain. He said, I'm gonna pick 12 of the top insurance companies, and we're gonna move away from them, and we're gonna find one that we can build ourselves. He said, I'm gonna move away from the 12 to 14 biggest banks and black community. We're gonna find one. This is Martin Luther King talking, not others. And then we're gonna support them collectively. We're gonna take our movement from the streets to the suites, and we're gonna make sure if we hungry, he said, we're gonna make everybody hungry. Hey man, and Martin Luther King started to realize this is how you hurt them.
And then they gave him that bullet. You know,
That it was.
They gave him that bullet. That's why Dr. King died. He didn't die because, you know, he had a dream and all that.
He didn't care about his dream.
He died when he woke up. And that's not an original quote, but yeah, I'm sure y'all have seen that. You know, he died because he woke up and said, okay, we're going to change strategy and this is what we're going to do. I was debating with a colleague about the other communities and the Asian community in particular. I don't see a whole lot of Asian communities, people, you know, them running people for office, and they just do what they do.
But what you do with that is because Asian has such a small population, so you're not going to have the numbers of the demographic. But what you will find out that Asians normally in the area, like Yu Chang, I used to work with Yu Chang, big up Yu Chang when I was with the city. He was a part of the city program, but he ran specifically with an agenda for the Korean community, for the Asian community. And I really admired it. I thought I knew something about nationalism, so he took me to the Asian community. And I was like, whoa, schools, hospitals. I'm like, y'all got a hospital? I'm going through shopping. What?
You said took you. That we might need. We probably need to organize a field trip to the Asian community so they can show us how it's really done.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is, and here's some, you know, and then when you look at it, even in the Jewish community, you have a handful of Jewish people that run, but the smallest population of people don't. But we have a mass numbers, and with those mass numbers and tax base, then we want to get something from that. But what happens is, after the 60s, for Fear of a Black Revolution, J. Edgar Hoover created the COINTELPRO Pro Solution. So the goal is to remove all the dominant, strong black people. So by the time we got to the 70s and 80s, those weren't black people you know that were becoming mayors. Those weren't the guys that was on the ground. They wanted to get rid of them. Let's get a new layer of leadership, and the ones that's been fighting, we ain't gonna put them niggas in office. We gonna put the new breed. And they took us in a whole different direction. They didn't represent us, and now that's why we're being misrepresented now. What best thing we can do is to run our own politicians. Find a young man right now and say, look, these are the things that our community need. We need you to run. We're gonna come up with our own money, and you indebted to us and the responsibility of the people who voted for you. Long term, short term, y'all, we're gonna have to do that. And you can't believe that it can't happen. You was in bondage. No one ever believed we would be free. And not least free from the shackles on our hands.
Well,
and we have.
And I agree with that. However, knowing the mind of the enemy, we get this young politician and we put our money behind him. And the problem is we gotta groom this politician. We have to groom him, and we have to know that he's actually loyal to us, because as soon as we put our money there, the enemy gonna come in and he gonna say, we got a stack 3 times as big as that stack that y'all got. You know what I mean? And then he's out of the game. And then you know that bloodshed is not beyond them. You know, this is what I'm saying. They'll kill our politicians. They will kill him. They'll put him in jail. I mean, it's like, I don't want to fight this fight.
Well, the same way you said about
I don't want to fight this fight no more. I want to just say, look, man, hey, we need to do what we need to do. And I remember about 20 years ago, Minister Farrakhan said something. He said, establish a relationship on equitable terms. And the only way we're going to be able to establish a relationship on equitable terms with any other people, Asian people, Latino people, white people, is if we get over here and get our stuff together on our own. And once we get ourselves together, then they're going to see, oh man, they got this, they got that, they got the university over there, they got the stadium over there, they got all of these schools. Look how they graduating these children. They doing well. This is what their communities are clean. We got to take care of our community, and then we can entertain. We can entertain this democratic process. But right now, I'm not trying to put no energy into that. I'm trying to put all of my energy into black people. Nothing against white people. Nothing against Asian people. Nothing against Indians. No other race.
Right.
I want to put my energy into black people.
The declaration of love that we have for our people, we need to stop trying to explain to that we anti anything else. When another group declares their love for themselves, you don't say, well, we matter too. See, when we declared our love and our right for ourselves and said that black lives matter, the first thing they said, well, white lives matter too. Well, it should have, but that was our own declaration. It was your guilt that made you say, well, white lives matter too. If I came to you and said, I got lung cancer, you don't turn to me and say, well, I got prostate cancer. You know, you have to really look at this thing, and these are people who really don't care about you and understand that. And understand that the same people who don't care about you has now taught you. I'm gonna say that again. For 3 generations, the same people who don't love you and don't care about you has taught your children. So what you're getting is a reflection of that education being reflected back. All we're saying now is we got to take a generation, a whole generation, and take them all the way from 1st grade to 12th grade. And that's when you groom them. When you school them from babies to manhood and to womanhood, now you can do that. Right. And you got to not be afraid to do it. Look, I went to the Bradley Foundation. I was working with a group, and this group was talking about what was going to happen. It was a Jewish group they invited us up to. They were projecting, this was like in 2001 or 2, they were projecting what was going to be happening in 2340. You understand what I said? They were projecting what they were going to be doing in 2340. All I'm saying is we got to think beyond our lifespan. That gives you a better perspective, because if you wish for them to happen many times in your lifetime, you might not see it. The longevity of people is based off the long-term prognosis. So, and then I'm going to say this too before you finish. 90% of most of the people who kill you all doing the hangings and the lynchings were businessmen and women. I'll say it one more time. 90% of the people that they targeted to kill were business men and women, meaning they own business. So you were taking us out politically. So this was calculated. It wasn't just Joe Blow. So know that that business people have been targeted. For every 1,000 people in one community, they got 99 businesses. But for every 1,000 people in our community, we got one business. That's not by accident. And integration played the role. They rewrote the narrative and told you that our liberation was based on integration. That's how our businesses and our money was taken. And then you started now representing us, representing the white or the Anglo, and you felt even more empowered. Look, you all, we got a stain on our brain. Knowledge itself will help change that.
Indeed. Well, brother, we've been, I think this has been,
you burn it down.
This has been great, however, and thank everybody for tuning in. Brother to brother with Amon Rashidi. Hey, Black Power, peace, love, light, and whatever Papa Roy got to say.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all. We're starting a youth bill over at 1705 or 1709. And definitely, it is really happening. Things are growing and leaping. 1705, 1709, Martin Luther King. And I want you to get with us on September the 1st. We're going to be doing the Conscious Corner, where we are basically bringing all the community out, bringing the businesses out. Anybody who want to do business, want to collaborate, we're going to be growing in leaps and bounds. We're working with vertical farms, so we're thinking about doing something pretty large and having our own farmers market store in the South Dallas area. We've already purchased that whole block already, so this ain't no guessing game no more.
And I want to shout out to Ray Rizzle. We're going to be starting Barbers as Mentors.
Yeah, BAM.
On September the 7th. We're jumping it off. We'll get back with you guys on the details. We just moving in the community and bringing our people together. And, we are such a great people. We have so much potential.
We do.
I've learned so much valuable wisdom from just talking to a person who is homeless on the street. So we all have value. We are all great, and we want to help, and we want to do our part in developing the potential and bringing our people together so that we can achieve to the highest heights.
Hey, and y'all be looking out for our banner. Our banner is like our flag. So we're going to be all over the city of Dallas with our banner, with our music, and with our propaganda, because we're going to be reclaiming the village. That's what it's really all about. Our banner, our flag, our music, and we're going to reclaim the village. And we're going to have our own clothing on. We're going to have our own food. We're going to have our own ideas. And we're going to be loving each other, man. We're going to be that. I'm going to show you how loving each other, having a good time and supporting each other can build a nation. It ain't got to be out stabbing, fighting, shooting. We can go and love each other, man, and grow a nation the same way you do a church. The same way you start out on one little bitty corner, and the next thing you know, you got a $54 million facility. But when you get it, you don't do nothing with it. That's all I'm saying. Let's use that, because those are our resources. And in love for my man, Dr. Benjamin Mays, if you never had a chance to check out Dr. Benjamin Mays, as a Christian brother, was one of the strongest, I believe, nationally minded brother. Martin Luther King loved him and admired him a great deal. Martin Luther King used to speak a great deal about the fact he didn't believe that Jesus was God. He thought he was the Son of God, and the doctrine wasn't consistent with many others. Benjamin Mays felt the same way in reference to Christianity. These were dialogues they had among each other. But one of the things that he always did was told Martin Luther King to lean on his own level of understanding. Stop surrendering your soul to churches. Your soul belongs to you. Stop surrendering your spirit to buying bags and shit you can't afford, because that still belongs to your community. And Dr. Benjamin Mays said it must be born in the mind that the tragedy in life doesn't lie in reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't calamity that our dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It isn't a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It's not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is a sin. It's your man, Papa Rod, PG-13. Holler back at y'all next week.